Hello students, welcome back to the next session of the chapter life processes. So in the last session we have discussed about nutrition in heterotrophs. In that we gave an example of nutrition in unicellular organism, that is amoeba. So we have discussed about nutrition in amoeba. So in that we have come across the 5 different steps which comes under nutrition process. Which are those? They were ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and ingestion. So here in this class we are going to discuss about nutrition in human beings. So unlike the nutrition in unicellular organism, nutrition in human beings is totally different because the body design of human beings is different from that of unicellular, right? So a human being is having a complex body design, where we are multicellular. So in multicellular organism, what is the difference you can find is we have a specialized organ or organ system or specialized group of cells which will perform different functions. So same way even here for the nutrition process also we have specialized cells, specialized group of cells, organs and organ system which will carry out the nutrition process. Whereas in unicellular organism everything was happening in a single cell, right? So here we have a specialized group of cells and organs which together form an organ system which will perform the nutrition process. So in human beings the nutrition process takes place through alimentary canal. It starts from mouth to anus. So alimentary canal means it's a long tube which is having different parts which carry out different functions. So throughout the alimentary canal the nutrition process happens. So it will be completed. So here why the nutrition is important in human beings is, so we know we need to maintain our life, we need to get some kind of energy. So we get the energy in the form of food we discussed, right? So we are getting the food from the external environment and that food cannot be directly absorbed by our body to provide energy. It has to be converted into another form, another useful form of energy for all kind of works, life activities to happen in our body, right? For that purpose nutrition is important, right? So we need to convert the food energy which we obtain from the external environment into useful form of energy. So you know we are obtaining different forms of food. So we organism, animals, heterotrophs have different food habits. So we depend upon different kind of food habits and that food which we are consuming cannot be directly absorbed by our body to provide energy. So it will be in a solid form, it will be in a complex form. So we need to break that complex form of food into simpler form, very much small, minute, simpler form which can be easily absorbed by our body, right? So we can, for example, if we take an apple, we cannot eat the apple and apple cannot be directly absorbed by our cells because it is solid form. So we need to break that apple into minute, simpler form of the starch or glucose, whatever it is, and that only can be absorbed by our body. So you know the different components of the food, right? So they are the different components of food they are the simplest form of the food. So the complex form of food has to be broken down into that simpler form. So which are the different components of the food? So we have carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. So in that especially carbohydrate, proteins and fat has to be digested. Vitamins and minerals need not be digested, it will be directly absorbed. The food contain vitamins and minerals in the simpler form itself, so it can be directly absorbed. Whereas the other forms of food, so that is the carbohydrate, proteins and fat will be available in the complex form. So that complex form of food materials has to be broken down into simpler carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Only then it can be absorbed by our body. So that is the reason why digestion is most important part of life processes. So we have to digest or break down the larger molecule of food, a complex form of food into simpler form. So that is why the nutrition is important. So when it has been broken down into minute particles or simpler form, then it can be easily absorbed by our blood and from the blood it will be carried, it will be transported to different parts, that is different cells in our body. There it will be broken down by respiration process, it will be broken down to produce energy, and then that energy is used in doing all kind of activity in our body. So that is what we are going to learn, the nutrition of human beings. So before that, let us see the different parts of the alimentary canal. I said you alimentary canal is a long tube which is having different part which perform different functions. So what are the different parts of alimentary canals? It starts from mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus. So this comes under the parts of alimentary canal. So it's a long tube, it starts from mouth to ends with anus. So in between you can come across different parts which will perform different functions here. So digestion doesn't happen. So nutrition in human beings starts with ingestion. So as we discussed with amoeba, it starts from ingestion process. So ingestion process means it's a process how the animals take in the food. So if we take the human beings, how do we take in the food? So we take in the food by using our hands, right? We take the food and put it into our mouth. That is the ingestion process, how it happens. If you take other animals, they may suck the food item, they may bite and pull the food items. So there is different process, different methods how different animals will follow ingestion process. In human beings, it is by using your hands, you just take the food and put it into your mouth. That is ingestion. That's the first step in nutrition in animals, nutrition in human beings. The second is digestion. Second step is digestion. The most important part of nutrition is digestion. So it is the longest process during the nutrition. So there where in the food has been broken down into smaller, simpler form. So digestion happens throughout the alimentary canal. So it will happen throughout the alimentary canal. So it starts from mouth and it will be completed in small intestine. So digestion is completed in small intestine. It starts right from the mouth itself. So digestion is not only happening through alimentary canal. So it also needs some associated glands. So digestive system in our body is not only just the alimentary canal, it also includes the associated glands. So along with that alimentary canal parts, that is mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus, along with those parts, even the associated gland also helps in digestion process. So which are the associated glands? So they include salivary gland, liver and pancreas. So all this together forms the digestive system in our body. So digestive system will be having all the parts of the alimentary canal starting from mouth to anus. Along with that, 3 of the associated glands we have, that is salivary gland, liver and pancreas. So together this makes up the human digestive system. So as I said, digestion starts from mouth and ends in the small intestine. Completely, all the food items will be completely broken down in small intestine, and the remaining, the waste products will be pushed into the large intestine and it will be removed through the anus. So that is how the digestion happens. So we will have to learn this step by step. So before starting with the digestion, let me explain you how the food item is being broken down in the digestive system. So in digestive system, the food item has been broken down by some kind of chemical reaction. The food will be broken down physically as well as chemically. Physical breaking of the food item happens in the mouth, and chemical digestion happens from mouth till the small intestine. The food items in our digestive system is broken down by the help of a biological catalyst known as enzymes. So we have a biological catalyst called as enzyme. So it is by the help of enzyme, the chemical reaction taking place in our digestive system, which helps in breaking down the complex form of food into simpler form. So let me tell you which are the different enzymes present in our digestive tract, which will help in digestion of different components of our food. So keep that in mind. So it will be easy for you to learn throughout the digestive process throughout the body. So before starting with the action of enzymes, with different kinds of enzyme which will help in the digestive process, let us look at the digestive system, human digestive system and its part. So you know the alimentary canal, it starts from mouth. I said it starts from the mouth, that is buccal cavity. It's also called buccal cavity. and after mouth. So mouth contain different other part of the mouth which will also help in digestion. That is, it includes tongue, teeth, and an associated gland called as salivary gland. So mouth along with the tongue, salivary gland, teeth helps in digestion. So in the mouth part. So out of mouth part comes the food pipe called as esophagus. It's also called as esophagus. It's a food pipe through which the food travels to reach the next part, that is stomach. So then we have a J-shaped organ called as stomach. So where all the food finally goes and reach. So there majority of the part of the food will be churned into simpler, it will be broken down into smaller particles. Then from mouth the food enters into a longest tube in the alimentary canal called as small intestine. So it enters into small intestine, and here in the small intestine the complete digestion happens. Digestion is completed in small intestine, and from there it enters into large intestine. That is, after digestion the remaining food which has not been digested, the undigested waste of the food will be then passing into the large intestine. So whatever food has been digested in the small intestine will be absorbed by the blood from the small intestine, and the undigested food will be entering into large intestine. So this is called as the large intestine, and along after large intestine the food will be then, the waste will be stored in the part of the end part of the large intestine called as the rectum, and after rectum it will be, after storing the food item for a while in the rectum, then it will be released out through the anus by digestion process. Along with this digestive canal you can find other associated parts, organs or glands which will help in digestion. So when you can see that a salivary gland will be there in the mouth which will help in digestion. Then there is a liver which will produce a juice called as bile juice. This is liver. Liver will produce a juice, yellowish color liquid called as bile juice. That bile juice will be stored in gallbladder, and that will be released during the digestive process. So even bile juice helps in digestion. Then you have one more associated organ or gland called as pancreas. So pancreas also release the enzymes like trypsin, lipase, amylase. Even that helps in digestion process. So this all together forms our digestive system. So it starts from mouth. From mouth you have salivary gland which will help in digestion. Then you have esophagus. Then comes stomach. From stomach it goes to small intestine. Then large intestine. So along with that we have other digestive glands, that is salivary gland, liver, pancreas. All this together forms our digestive system. So in different part of the digestive system there will be different kind of enzymes secreted which will actually help in catalyzing or making the reaction faster. That is, to break down the food molecules into simpler form. So let us learn some of the enzymes which is there in our digestive system, how it will help in digestion process. So enzymes are the biological catalyst which will actually help in acceleration of the chemical reaction taking place throughout the digestive system. So through some kind of chemical reaction the food item has been broken down into its simpler form. So that has been accelerated by the help of enzymes. So enzymes can be also called as biological catalyst because it will help in increasing the rate of chemical reaction. So which are the different types of enzymes present in our digestive system is? So we have enzyme called as amylase which acts on carbohydrate. So I said you the enzyme acts on, the food has to be broken down into simpler form. In that three component which has to be broken down is carbohydrate, protein and fat has to be broken down. Vitamins and minerals can be directly absorbed by our body. So the three component of the food which has to be digested is carbohydrate, protein and fat. So we have different enzymes which acts on carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So in that first we have amylase. So you can find amylase in two different parts of the digestive system. That is, one is in saliva called as salivary amylase. So salivary amylase is produced where? It is produced in the salivary gland present in our mouth. So you can find three salivary glands under our tongue and the buccal region. So that is producing amylase called as salivary amylase. Another amylase is produced by pancreas, by pancreatic system. Pancreas also produces an amylase called as pancreatic amylase. So these two amylase acts on what? It acts on carbohydrate. amylase acts on carbohydrate, and what we are getting finally is glucose. So the simpler form of carbohydrate is glucose. So finally, by the action of amylase, carbohydrate is completely broken down to form the simplest form of glucose, which can be easily absorbed by our blood. So we have another enzyme called as pepsin and trypsin. So pepsin and trypsin helps to break down a component of the food called as protein. So it acts on protein. So these are the enzymes which acts on protein, and finally the protein will be broken down into its simplest form called as amino acid. The simplest form of protein is amino acid. So finally we are getting amino acid, which can be easily absorbed by our blood cells. So here pepsin is produced in the stomach of the digestive system, and trypsin is produced by the pancreas of a digestive system. So pepsin and trypsin are the enzymes which act upon protein, and what we are getting finally is amino acid. Next is lipase. Lipase is another enzyme which acts upon fat. So fat has been broken down finally into the simplest form called as fatty acid and glycerol. So which is the enzyme acting on fat is lipase. Lipase act on fat, and fat will be broken down to its simplest form called as fatty acid and glycerol. So that is lipase is produced in pancreas itself. Even lipase is produced in pancreas. So you can find pancreatic amylase, trypsin and lipase. All the three enzymes is produced by pancreas. So which will be released into the small intestine where the digestion happens. So even we have another associated gland called as liver, which will produce a juice called as bile juice, which will be stored in a structure called as gallbladder. So in gallbladder it will be stored. So what is the function of bile juice is to, it is not actually helping in complete digestion, but it actually helps in emulsifying fat. Emulsifying fat means this fat molecule, larger molecule of fat will be broken down into smaller molecule by the help of this bile juice. It acts on fat, and that emulsified fat will be further digested by the help of lipase. So lipase helps in complete digestion of fat. So you can see here, by the complete digestion of carbohydrate, protein and fat, what is the final product we are getting is glucose, amino acid and fatty acid and glycerol. So these are the simpler form of food. So larger molecule of food will be broken down into simpler form, I said. So what is the simpler form we are getting is finally glucose, amino acid and fatty acid and glycerol are the simpler form of food, which can be then absorbed easily by our blood from our intestine. So this is the different enzymes which will help in the digestion process. So now in the next class, in the next session, we are going to explain about how this digestion happens, which part of the digestive system all these things is going to happen. So in a order we'll be learning in our next session. So we'll be winding up the class today. So just write down all this kind of enzymes and on what it is acting on and what is the final product you are getting separately in a neat sheet of paper, so that you can refer that while studying the complete digestion process happening in the body. So we'll meet in the next session, and in that session we are going to discuss about how the digestion happens in a human digestive system. So we'll meet in the next session. Thank you.